Elgato's been leading the way as far as creating equipment that helps out streamers. And not that long ago, they introduced themselves into the webcam market with the Elgato Facecam. But is it actually good? And is it really worth the money? Well, we're gonna take a look at that today as we are gonna go through an unboxing, a setup, and then also just some basic how to set this up kind of deal. So we're gonna go over, is it worth it? Should you spend your money on it? And should you just jump up into a camera versus using a webcam for that price point? Let's take a look at it. First, go and unbox this bad boy. So what you actually get inside the box is gonna be the actual webcam and the USB cable. That's pretty much it. Oh, and I forgot to mention, probably one of the world's smallest user manual. Not that anyone reads these, but I just thought it was funny and kind of cute. Oh God. But the world's smallest webcam. So with the actual webcam, you actually get this cover that comes on top of it. So that way, if you don't want someone spying on you, you can go ahead and put that over it. Or honestly too, if you want to travel with it, then that way you can just do that without scratching the lens. So let's go ahead and plug this in the computer and see what we got. All right, so now we have the webcam hooked up to our computer. We're gonna go ahead and jump over to our computer setup and we're gonna start using that to see what it's like to set this up. What's going on? Welcome to the setup. Also, before I go into the actual PC portion of this, I do wanna say that I did get this for free through a scholarship program. No, this is not given to me by Elgato directly. They also did not ask me to make this video. They're not seeing this video before it is out. This is completely 100% my own opinion. So do not think that because I did get it for free through a scholarship program, it is impacting my view or my honest opinion on this product.
All right, so first let's go ahead and download the software, make sure we have the right software to work with the Elgato Facecam. There is special software you can get right from their website. So just go to Elgato Facecam, go to downloads. I actually do think they make this pretty easy for all their downloads and stuff like that. So I actually was watching a video from Harris and he actually brings up a good point. I feel like Elgato's really nailed software and I feel like most hardware companies kind of struggle with that. So kudos to them, but download the Camera Hub app to your computer, install it. Does anyone actually read any of those? Like the, before you install, read these, like who's actually read those things? No one's got time for that. Ain't no one got time to read those things. Okay, now we're set up optimal for that. So looking at this, you actually have a lot of settings on the side, which is gonna be really amazing because I like how they give you so much like detailed, like you can either do automatic on a lot of things and that way you can just save it that way, or you can go ahead and get like knit and grit. So in case you do learn about cameras, which I actually just put out a video on how to, camera basics. So if you want to check that out somewhere up here, I think this way, it's right up here. It's right up here. I always forget that. But yeah, one thing you'll notice too at the top is that there's actually a save button. Now, what's really cool about this is that this actually has onboard memory, which means once you set this and you save it, it's done. So if you travel to different events, if you use a laptop and you're kind of like on the go and stuff like that, when you plug it back in, it's not going to reset any of the settings, which is really awesome. And also what that means is that you can use it in different applications without it reverting back to the original state. I've got to say, it was one of the most frustrating things with some of the older webcams, having to reset them up every single time because it was just constantly changing settings on you and it was annoying. So thank you very much, Elgato, for doing that. I really appreciate it. Now let's go and move on to this. So input, Elgato Facecam, FOV. So this is going to be a 24mm equivalent lens. So basically what that means that the width of the lens is going to be something similar to this. I'll show you well, you guys already saw. I'll put the screenshot up of the full frame. So it should be a pretty similar field of view. Because it's going to be very similar to this, which I'm using the 16mm Sigma 1.4, which should be pretty equivalent to a 24 full frame. If you don't know what I mean, then go watch that video and you'll kind of understand it a little bit more. So let's just keep this wide out as it is, because as streamers we do, with contrast and saturation, sharpness. Let me see. I feel like I'm looking really soft. So let me see. I'm going to go ahead and mess around with some of the settings real quick. All right, so I think after messing around with it for a little bit, this actually looks pretty decent as far as it goes. One thing I will say though, is if you look at it, like, although it might not be perfectly looking like as quality as a webcam, now keep in mind, my camera setup that I'm using is well over $1,000 versus a $200 webcam that we're using right now. Now, one thing I will point out that you don't normally see is look at this motion that you get out of it. The motion is super smooth. It's very clear. It's very clean, stuff like that. Like, it's actually really good at capturing motion, which I feel like a lot of other cameras, they have an issue with basically where it's ghosting. So you kind of like don't have that nice motion and it's too much. But either way, let's go and run through some of the settings, why I picked them. And again, you can tweak this to the way that you want to, but the field of view basically is gonna be how wide it is and how zoomed in it's gonna be. So if I want to zoom in all the way like this, do that. I obviously don't, recommend it because if you look at all the grain and noise on it, so don't do that. Contrast I put to 30%. This is basically going to help you just kind of like give contrasting colors in the actual image and stuff like that. So I do wear a lot of dark and there are a lot of dark spots in my room. So I feel like 30 or 40% is pretty decent. I think 30 just because it leaves a little bit bright. So the blacks aren't completely washed out. Saturation, I just left it 50, although I do feel like for some reason my nanos over here don't look as colorful as normal. There is a lot of light in the room right now, so I could try and adjust that a little bit. It could be the problem, but 50% seems pretty decent for skin tone and stuff like that. Like, it doesn't look too off. Sharpness is going to be basically how sharp the detail is in the actual image. But keep in mind, again, if you bump it up too much, you're going to lose. It's going to look ridiculous. If you have it down too low, it's going to be a very soft image. So I kept it right at 2. I feel like 2 is a nice spot for it. Exposure, I basically never leave this on auto, because if you're moving around like I do, then it's going to change quite a bit. So I put this at 1/25. Again, for anyone that doesn't know, rule of cameras, when you are recording something, you want to double your frame rate. So if you are at 60 FPS, which most cameras are, then you want to do 1/120 for the shutter rule. Yeah. And then ISO is basically going to be just artificial lighting and stuff like that. Use as little of this as possible, pretty much you can get away with. Honestly, I could probably get away with dropping it from 400 and it looks still pretty good. Like, honestly, I think 400 is a little bright, so I feel like this might be a little bit too dark. I'm not too sure. And it's also a little bit hard too, because every monitor is going to be a different color, especially with gaming monitors. But I feel like even this looks actually really good. Like, the blacks look really good. They're not too like dark. The colors in the back look nice and vibrant, which are nice. Still, the nanos I think are just looking a little bit off, but whatever. So it still looks great. So ISO is going to be artificial lighting. Again, I use a little of this as possible. Just use more lighting and stuff like that. I even have like a window right in front of me right now with the shades open, so it helps with the lighting. And then I have the temperature is going to be set to 45, which is, I guess that makes sense. It's really just going to be like the color temperature. So again, if you want to raise this up, you can make it more kind of like red and stuff like that, red hued or warm. If you want to make it cool, you can do this. But obviously you don't want to look like you're dead, and you also don't want to look like you've been spraying yourself with too much tanning spray. So it's like 45, 46 is a good Kelvin for me. Then AC noise reduction pro. Let's try and turn that on. Yeah, actually, I think that actually worked. That actually worked a decent amount. Okay, that's pretty good. If you look at this wall right here and you look at the area up there, I'll try and either blow this up in post or something like that. But if you look at this wall, right? So let's keep looking at this wall, and then I turn noise reduction off. You can see those moving spots get a little bit more heavy. I turn that on, it's gonna be a lot better. That's pretty good. Honestly, I'm actually really impressed with this, because I feel like the colors are pretty darn good. They give you a lot of functionality as far as like what you can control in the actual software. And it looks really good. The motion is fantastic. Like, this is got to be, I've tried a few different webcams, quite a few of them, some that are ranging around $200, and this is probably the best motion clarity I've got out of a webcam, period. That is probably closest to my $1,200 setup that I have myself. So I'm actually really impressed with this. Let's go ahead and hit save, and there we go. I think you have yourself a pretty good looking camera right now, that you can, again, I can unplug this, I can replug it in, I can put it in different programs, and it will have the exact same settings I made. But just for gigs, let's try and do like more of a head-on look. Damn. Okay, wait a minute. That actually looks really good. Like, I feel like that looks really, really good. Now, again, I'm soft, and I feel like that's like the color, like the detail in me is kind of soft, and that's what I mean by soft. And that's probably the only thing giving this away, that it's actually a webcam. Hang on, like, I'm actually impressed with how good this looks. I'm honestly very impressed with this. This is very surprising. This looks really damn good for 200 bucks. Wow. Okay. I wanted to try one thing really, really quick. I do want to try the 1080p at 30. Now you got more of that like webcam kind of feel to it and stuff like that. But from what I've heard, if you don't have a whole lot of lighting, or you don't have the ability to light your camera, sorry, you don't have the ability to light your space the way that you want to, I feel like this will actually help you. So keep that in mind. It's not a bad idea to do that. But 1080 60 with these settings, like movement wise, it looks fantastic. Also too, I'm going to be honest, again, if you look at this one, right? So if you look at my actual webcam, look at how large it is on the screen. It's really not that large. So then you think about taking this image and you think about shrinking it down even more, it's going to look even better. So really impressed with this. Let's go ahead and head back to my main head-on talking portion, and we're going to go ahead and talk about this camera, what I thought about it, and we'll go from there.
All right, welcome back to the head-on talking portion. Let's go ahead and put my light back on. Perfect. Okay, so let's talk about a couple things I noticed with this. First off, the software was incredibly easy to use. It gave you a lot of ability to change settings in the actual app. Also too, you can save it directly to it, which makes it a dream, because I can't tell you how many times I've unplugged a webcam and then plugged it back in, and all of a sudden just poof, everything is completely different. So that is super frustrating as a content creator, or even too, just if you're trying to Skype or Zoom with anyone, like it's super frustrating. Also, the software is automatic modes, which is nice. You can also change your actual resolution too, which is awesome that you have that flexibility to change it all the way down to below 720, which is kind of neat. Again, I wouldn't go too far below 720, because even if you are shrinking it down on your screen, you still want it to look really good, and they're just gonna be squishing those pixels, so it'll look a little bit better if you do shrink it down and it's 1080p or 720. Coloring wise, I thought it looked pretty good. Again, I thought it was a little weird with the nanos, but other than the nano, like the purple Twitch pillow and everything else in the back of my room, I felt like looked pretty darn good in the picture, and I felt like it had good color to it, which is really important. The image is a little bit soft, but again, unless you're paying like $1,200 for a camera like this, or excuse me, like this one, you're probably not gonna get the same level of sharpness out of it. Also too, one thing I'd like to note is I do generally run a pretty low light setup, so I don't really have much for lighting going on. I actually use the key light air, and I use that bounce off the wall to come back at me. This is actually a lot more lighting in my room than I normally have at night when I stream, which by the way, if you want to come check me out on stream, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday night, usually 8 p.m. So come hang out, love to chat with you. Overall, I thought this was a really great camera. Again, if I had to complain about something, I guess one thing that I found during my research, it doesn't have a webcam built into it, which I'll be honest, you should never be using a webcam. I think even by today's standards with Zoom and classroom meetings, like if you're using a webcam mic, you're probably not everyone's favorite person in the classroom. So just get a microphone, or even use a regular gaming headset mic, because those are getting pretty darn good for what they are. Number two would be, I wish there was more detail in the actual image. Again, I felt like the motion was fantastic on it, which I think is a huge dead giveaway whenever it comes to webcams. So I think they have a huge leg up on that. But detail-wise, I wish there was more to it. However, you gotta keep in mind, it's a really tiny sensor being packed into that little kind of webcam. And I think for what it is, it's pretty solid. Lastly, $200 is pretty expensive for a webcam if you think about it, when you can go get like a C920 or something like that for 60 or 50 bucks nowadays. So it really begs to ask, should you just buy this versus a full-fledged camera? Honestly, I think this is a great option. I think most people don't plan on doing photography and videography. All right, so with all of that in mind, should you actually upgrade to a Elgato Facecam, or should you just save your money and invest into a full-fledged camera? Is the Facecam even worth it for $200? To be honest, I absolutely think it is. And here's a couple reasons why. Again, the motion on it was fantastic. I think a lot of people have a hard time telling if it's a webcam versus a regular like full-fledged camera, especially if you're in like a gaming scene where you might be a bit more shrunk down than blown up. I think a lot of people, especially viewers, are gonna have a hard time telling it. Secondly, the motion on it is absolutely amazing. Like the motion, did I mention the motion? I think I did. The motion on it is fantastic. I couldn't believe how well it kept up, especially with my actual camera. Motion-wise, it looked beautiful. Another thing too, this is gonna be an easy set it up and forget it kind of thing. Did I really just use that cheesy line? I did. Set it and forget it. You literally just set up the settings once, you save it to the internal memory, and you can go to a friend's house, you can collaborate with someone if you want to, you could change computers if you're traveling or anything like that. You can just plug this in, it's gonna have the exact same settings you had before, which is awesome. Now you might have to go in and change a couple things here and there, but generally it's a lot better than starting at completely ground zero, which is really nice. And also lastly, again, the reason why I think this is a good pick over a full-fledged camera like this, not a lot of people are gonna be doing anything more than just streaming. And when you think of just streaming, investing $600, $700 into even like a entry-level like APS-C camera is gonna be a lot. Also too, there's a learning curve to it, and it's just kind of a headache, to be honest, for some people, because not everyone is as interested in cameras like I am or you might be, but having the simplicity of a webcam where you just plug it in and use it is really awesome. So overall, I think this webcam is actually really impressive, and I do think it's worth $200 if you're looking to upgrade your webcam. Again, I think the one thing that I was most blown away by was the actual motion clarity on it was like literally keeping up with a $1,200 setup. It looked beautiful compared to what I've seen from other webcams. Even in that price range, I think this is probably the best one I've seen so far. And also too, the software is super easy to use. Are you gonna invest in a webcam like this, or are you gonna save your money and actually get yourself a full-fledged camera? Let me know in the comment section below. I'd really like to hear about that. Thanks so much for watching the video. I appreciate it. Make sure you guys give it a thumbs up and a like. Helps me out with the algorithms and also really supports the channel. Also hit that subscribe button in case you do like some of the information you got today, or if you want to see more content like this, I'd really appreciate it. Don't forget to, again, I am live on Twitch Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday night. I appreciate it. Thank you all for the support. Happy streaming. Have a good one. That's Harris's thing. I'm not gonna say that. You know what? Go out there and be awesome. Do something great today, all right? Adios.